What up, Chiefs Kingdom? BJ Kissel here with another episode of 10 Things on KC Sports Network. We started last week with a new format for this show, answering one big question, two takeaways, three plays to love, and four facts you ought to know. All that adds up to 10 things. Again, we appreciate you for spending part of your day with us, talking about how the Chiefs moved to 14-1 on the season with that 27-19 victory over the Houston Texans. Magic number getting down to 1 in order for the Chiefs to get the number 1 overall seed, get that bye, get those two AFC games in the playoffs at GHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. But the magic number for me is actually 4. The Chiefs are 4 wins away from doing something that we've talked about all year. Was the goal for this team and this organization, this franchise, to do something that's never been done in the history of the National Football League, which is win 3 Super Bowls in a row. It's so difficult for so many reasons. Put all these obstacles, including this stretch of 3 games in 11 days that the Chiefs are going through right now. Unbelievable for the Chiefs to be in the position they are right now and to be so close to it. And excited to talk a little bit about that game and some of the things that stood out to me. But I did not watch the game live on Sunday, and I want to spend just a minute here, and I hope you all stay with me. I didn't watch the game live. I was at a funeral yesterday for the 15-year-old son who's a freshman at Olathe South High School who took his own life. He's the son of a former teammate of mine in college. We played baseball together at the University of Central Missouri before I transferred to Kansas State. I was a freshman. He was a senior. He's one of the seniors we all looked up to. He and now his wife. Great people. I sat at the funeral. I never had a chance to meet the young man. I talked with his dad about him with some youth baseball stuff that my son is going through. But I sat there and I listened to friends and coaches, sibling, even the pastor who had been a youth football coach for this young man, talk about a kid who was everyone's best friend, always had a smile on his face. There were some hints that there was some deeper things that were going on, some issues, some mental health things. But I feel like I learned a lot about the young man sitting there listening to people talk about him. It was gut wrenching. It was awful to listen to. But it just reminded me, and I want to share that you never know what people are going through, and everyone you meet is fighting a battle you cannot see. The family has asked for anyone wanting to help to promote Fight Club. Fight Club is a confidential peer support group to help young adults fight for each other and win the war against mental health impact from the pressures and anxiety the world puts on them. Fight Club believes in doing life together with other peers so that our youth know that they are not alone in the many battles they face. There were mentions yesterday during the service that, kids nowadays are having to deal with a lot more things when it comes to social anxieties with social media and things like that, that we didn't have to, those of us, I'm 42, almost 42 years old, that we didn't have to go through. And it's just be kind. You never know what people are going through. And if you do know somebody out there who needs help, maybe try and look into Fight Club. I don't know a whole lot about it. I'm using this platform the way that we always have to try and help in any way. So if one person out there can take something away or share that with somebody else they know who is struggling, we'll consider this entire building a KCSN a success. So it's about the 9th time I've tried to do that intro. Again, never met the young man, but sitting there, you can't help but feel for people that are hurting. That church was almost standing room only, I think. And it was powerful and moving. There's no good way to transition out of that to talk about a football game, but I'm going to try. I've been trying for the last hour. I've been trying to record this. But be kind and help people if you can. All right, let's get this started. Talking a little bit about the Chiefs win over the Texans, and starting with the first question. The big question is, was this the Chiefs' offensive ceiling? Andy Reid said after the game that all in all, I thought this was our best game offensively, defensively, and special teams wise. You got 260 passing yards from Patrick Mahomes, who looked sharp for a good majority of the game. Again, I went back and watched it after the fact. DeAndre Hopkins, Hollywood Brown, Travis Kelce, all making key receptions in big moments. What we saw from Xavier Worthy, and we'll get to him a little bit later in this show as well. But one of the things that stood out to me in the post-game press conference was Vahe Gregorian of the Kansas City Star asking Andy Reid about Patrick Mahomes, his leadership, and what he showed to get on the field this week after dealing with another ankle injury.
Yeah, he spoils the dog out of us there because he's so tough and mentally and physically. So um, you just get used to it. But most guys don't come back from that like he did. But he set his mind to it, and then he jumped in that training room and stayed in there. And they worked on him, and they did a great job with that. Our trainers. But most guys uh, don't do that. But you're right. It sends a message to the whole team, and our guys are real good with it. Our leaders are good in that way. They try to play through things like that.
We've seen it from Patrick Mahomes throughout his entire career. We've seen him at different points be injured, come back. We saw it in the first Super Bowl as he came back from a dislocated kneecap. Was able to come back within that season after Matt Moore had to step in and play a little bit. But what we've seen from Patrick Mahomes just keeps adding chapters to what started off as the greatest start to a career in NFL history. And not about sports history. I'm not going to pretend to know all the different sports, but what we're seeing is not normal. We talk about it all the time, and it's led by Patrick Mahomes. But this offense against a very, very good Houston Texans defense, solid all the way around. A big thing, no turnovers was a huge part of this. But Patrick Mahomes, 28 of 41, again, 260 yards with 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Also added a rushing touchdown, which we're going to talk about again here in a bit with the 3 plays to love, because you can't not love that play. But running the football, Chiefs, 124 yards as a team on the ground, averaging over 4 yards per carry. Kareem Hunt getting a chunk run with the 20-yarder, which we've talked about, kind of being what piece that was missing. Hopefully Isaiah Pacheco bringing that in, but saw the running game add value to what we've seen from the Chiefs offensively. And then the receiving core is really the story of this game. That's what people want to talk about. Hollywood Brown making his debut for the Chiefs, first catch that he had. Again, I'm spoiling all the 3 plays to love, but you're going to see that again. But Hollywood Brown finished the game with 5 catches for 45 yards on 8 targets. Xavier Worthy, probably best game of his career. At this point, from what they need from him, 7 catches for 65 yards and a touchdown. DeAndre Hopkins only had 4 catches for 37 yards, but we know those were impactful plays. His toe tap touch along the sideline, one of the bigger plays. And then Travis Kelce catching huge third down, making huge third down receptions in the red zone on third down. We've seen that movie before, but all that's to say, great performance by the Chiefs offense. But the big question was this the Chiefs offensive ceiling? I don't think it was. And that's not the bias part of me. And I've talked about this last week, and I'm going to talk about it again, because from what I saw, it was a lot of the same with Joe Thuney battling his tail off at left tackle. It's a great storyline. He's deserving of all the credit. He can step in and play left tackle if needed. But in talking about the ceiling of this team and the margin of error of what this team needs to beat 3 good teams, they get the bye, to beat 3 good teams in the playoffs, in the divisional round, the AFC title game, and then obviously the Super Bowl. They have to be at their absolute best. And I think the ceiling and the absolute best for this Chiefs offense is still, if healthy, DJ Humphries at left tackle and Thuney at left guard, because I think that the combo of Humphrey and Thuney at those 2 spots is better than the combination of Thuney being a solid but out of position player at left tackle and can play there, but you're still moving one of the best guards in football to being a solid left tackle. I want both those positions to be solid. We saw Mike Caliendo was the lowest graded offensive player for the Chiefs in this game. And not that he hasn't had moments and been able to function where the Chiefs offense could still go out and put up a game like they did. But we're talking about the ceiling of this team, and I still believe the highest ceiling includes DJ Humphries at left tackle. Should shout out Wanya Morris. A lot of people smarter than me. I know Jeff Schwartz talked about on the postgame show that when he went in for Jawan Taylor at right tackle, actually looked pretty good. So shout out to them as well. But yeah, I think the development we've seen from Xavier Worthy, the return of Hollywood Brown, and the continued comfortability growing between DeAndre Hopkins and Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs offense is getting right at the right time, being super picky regarding ceilings, because I do think there's a little more you could squeeze out of them if DJ Humphries can get healthy and be ready to go. I still think that's a better combination than Thuney and Caliendo, but we've seen it before. This is the Chiefs overall as a team getting hot at the right time. That's what this entire regular season was about. I think it was Rich Eisen who said the Chiefs used the regular season as a lab to get ready for the playoffs and to tweak all their stuff and make sure they're playing their best football at the end of the season. And that's what we're seeing right now, is they're playing better football than they did a few weeks ago. That's all we want to see. It's what we've seen over the last couple years. All right, moving on to top 2 takeaways. Fun that this segment's about takeaways because I'm going to talk about takeaways for both sides of the ball. Defensively, it's about takeaways. They have 18 takeaways on the season. 8 of them have come over the last 2 weeks. Obviously, 6 last week against the Cleveland Browns with all the interceptions, all the plays they made. But then another couple of interceptions against a very good CJ Stroud quarterback. It's a very good young player in CJ Stroud, where Trent McDuffie for the second week in a row was able to get an interception after spending the entire time of his career so far in Kansas City being an all-pro cornerback, but just having that one knock of not taking the ball away. Now we've seen it 2 weeks in a row, and then Jaden Hicks getting his hands on a football and taking the ball away. It's exactly what you want to see. Now, there are still some issues in coverage. We saw it with CJ Stroud. They've still picked up some chunk plays. They still picked on that number 2 corner a little bit, or Nick Bolton across the middle. There are areas in which opposing offenses are going to get some chunk plays against this Chiefs defense, but they're bucking up when it matters, and takeaways mask a lot. The Chiefs have a +9 turnover differential over their last 5 games. So again, it's about playing your best football at the end of the year, and defensively, taking the ball away can mask a lot of things. It can give short fields, obviously, to your offense and get easy points. This isn't a quick strike offense. Talked about it on the broadcast yesterday, leading the league in the most 10 plus play scoring drives. It's impressive that they can do it, being so good on third down. A lot of it has to do with the EPA and how good they are in their rushing efficiency. That some of those 3, 4, 5 yard carries aren't the most exciting things in the world to watch, but they're putting you in 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 4s, 3rd and 2s, things that are easier to convert, which obviously help the third down percentage, conversion percentage be why the Chiefs are one of the best in the NFL. But again, takeaways by the defense is exactly what you want to see. And we've seen 8 over the last 2 weeks, trending in the right direction as we get close to the playoffs. And then conversely, on the offensive side, second takeaway is the offense not turning the ball over again. They have 0 turnovers over their last 5 games. Again, that +9 turnover differential. They have 9 takeaways, have not turned the ball over. Again, less quick strike, more methodical. But the turnover differential, as we get closer to the playoffs, becomes paramount. And we talk about it, and sometimes it's such a cliche in a storyline. It's like you talk about what is a key to this game. We'll get pressure on the opposing quarterback, convert on third down, don't turn the ball over. That literally game plan for any pregame show ever. Here are your keys to the game. But in the playoffs, over the last 2 years, obviously the Chiefs won the Super Bowl in both. The turnover differential for the Chiefs in the playoff last year was +2, won a Super Bowl. The year before, won a Super Bowl, it was +4 in 2022 playoffs. The Chiefs overall, it's offense, defense, had 4 more takeaways than they did giveaways. The 2 previous years before that, in 2021, when they lost to the Bengals in the AFC Championship game, in the playoffs, their turnover differential was -2. And then the year before that, when they lost to the Bucs in the playoffs, -3 was their turnover differential. Obviously, a lot more to it, but you really want to boil it down and you want to find a couple of stats that will always tell you. I used to call them the 4 key stats. It was third down conversions, red zone efficiency, turnovers, and penalty yards. Those are the things that if you win 3 of those and you're better than your opponent in 3 of those areas, you win like 95% of your games. If you really just want to boil the game down to just a couple of things. But my top 2 takeaways: defense, taking the ball away 8 over the last 2 weeks. Offense, no turnovers over the last 5 weeks. This is what we mean by watching this team develop and be at their best as they get closer to the playoffs. So it is a beautiful thing to watch. And another beautiful thing to watch are these 3 plays to love, which we'll get to right after this quick break. All right, let's get into our 3 plays to love from the Chiefs win over the Texans on Saturday. And it's going to start with one, not a huge surprise right here. I teased it earlier in the show, but the first catch of the season and in his Chiefs career for Hollywood Brown, taking that pass right across the middle on 4th and 2 for the conversion. These are the types of things you want to see. And on the second view here, for those watching on YouTube, I slow it down right here because you see all the congestion, all the traffic right there, the spacing between Kelsey, Xavier Worthy, and Hollywood Brown, that is not as easy as it looks. It takes a lot of reps for those guys to understand that spacing. They got it done right there when it mattered the most, and they made it look pretty easy. Somebody else that makes things look pretty easy on this second play that I loved is Patrick Mahomes. Bum ankle and all, or whatever you want to call it, with Julie and Bobby and everybody on his team getting him ready to play. Shout out to all of them. But Patrick Mahomes escaping the pocket and getting the touchdown. He has a tendency just to put everybody at ease in moments like this where you're worried about how he's going to handle it. Not only does he run for the touchdown, but kind of gets tripped up, is able to keep his balance, show some strength in his ankles to be able to make a play like that and show that even if he's not 100%, he's going to do everything he can to be out there, be a dog and make plays for his teammates. Made this thing even more beautiful as you can see who he got out of the grasp of on the play.
Pat's a little banged up, so I don't know if he's going to play or not, but I hope he's mobile enough because we coming in Arrowhead.
You guys plan to get after that?
Yeah, for sure. Pat better make a good decision. I ain't making no threats. I'm making promises.
That picture right there is of Tim Settle watching Patrick Mahomes get away from him. And Patrick Mahomes is making promises too. And he keeps his promises because every time a player speaks to anything negative in any kind of way around Patrick Mahomes, this is the result. So Tim Settle just joined a long list. And the list is growing for a number of plays that we've seen from Xavier Worthy in his rookie career so far that he's making for the Chiefs offense, including this one right here. This final drive, it's not 3 plays. This is 4 plays, but it's the final drive for the Chiefs on that touchdown to really seal the victory. They had 80 yards on that drive. 46 of them came from Xavier Worthy. I know why. Again, I watched the game after the fact. I know why I was seeing so many tweets about Xavier Worthy stepping up and having probably his best game of his career thus far in this win over the Texans. As you see the touchdown right here from Patrick Mahomes to Xavier Worthy to really seal the game and help the Chiefs get their 14th victory of the season. Phenomenal performance from Xavier Worthy. Those are the 3 plays that I'm going to remember from that game, between Hollywood's first catch on 4th down, Mahomes' TD run, breaking away from Tim Settle, and then Xavier Worthy on that last drive, being the player they drafted in the first, or being the player they wanted when they took him in the first round to be late in the regular season, getting ready for the playoffs. And Xavier Worthy is making plays in crunch time when his name is called. All right, let's move on to the 4 stats or 4 things that you ought to know coming away from this game. With Saturday's 27-19 win against the Texans, the Chiefs improved to 8-0 at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium in 2024. It marked the 5th time in franchise history that the team went undefeated at home, joining the 2003, 1997, 1995, and 1971 teams for going undefeated at home. It also is the 3rd 14-plus win season in the 64-year history of the club. It also happened in 2020 and in 2022, with all of those seasons, obviously then, coming under the leadership of head coach Andy Reid. The Chiefs have now had 6 seasons with 13 or more wins in their history: 95, 97, 03, and then again 2020, 2022, and 2024. So not only the Chiefs 1 win away from securing that number 1 seed, they're 1 win away from having the most wins they've ever had in the regular season. Obviously play a couple more games now, or another game now, but still cool nonetheless. And the fact that all the best seasons have come under Andy Reid continues to show us why that these are the good old days. It's why we sell gear that says these are the good old days, because it is a constant reminder to be where your feet are, live in the moment. But also when it comes to Kansas City Chiefs, and in a lot of ways just sports in Kansas City right now, this is as good as it's ever been. And these are the things that we're going to be telling stories about in like 25 years. So soak it up. All right. Number 2 thing you need to know. Patrick Mahomes, when he found his way into the end zone to start the scoring early with that 15-yard run that we just showed, it marked his 2nd rushing touchdown of the season, 14th of his career, already sits atop the franchise record book for most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback. Again, finished 28 of 41 for 260 yards with 1 touchdown to go, with 5 carries for 33 yards in that rushing score we mentioned. In his 8th NFL season, but only his 7th as a full-time starter, Mahomes now owns 242 career touchdown passes, passing Pro Football Hall of Fame quarterback Dan Marino for the 2nd most by a quarterback in their first 8 years in the league. Mahomes needs just 3 more touchdown passes in 2024 to pass Hall of Famer Peyton Manning for the most in a quarterback's first 8 seasons. All right, so unpack this a little bit. because, again, he started the one game his rookie year, so it throws all these numbers off. More important for me in looking at these numbers, Patrick Mahomes has thrown 242 touchdown passes in 111 games. Again, he's 3 touchdowns shy of surpassing Peyton Manning for the most touchdowns in the first 8 years in the NFL. But Peyton Manning had 244 touchdowns in 128 games. He played 17 more games. So, again, Patrick Mahomes hopefully plays against the Steelers. They win that game. He can rest against Denver in the last week of the season. So Patrick would need 3 touchdowns against the Steelers to do it in the regular season. But again, either way, he's done all of this in significantly fewer games than anyone else. So contextualizing greatness, contextualizing what we've seen from Patrick Mahomes, again, best start we've ever seen to a player in NFL history, maybe best start for an athlete, just because of how rare it is to see what he's doing with the MVPs and the Super Bowls and the records and the stats, now playing through injuries, showing leadership. And that's not even talking about things he does off the field, which have been well documented, probably not documented enough with what he does with the 15 and the Homies Foundation. We're lucky that he's in this in our community. Moving on to number 3, Xavier Worthy helped the Chiefs close out their 2024 home slate undefeated after making a significant impact in both the running and passing games. With 2:46 left in the third quarter, Mahomes found Worthy open for the 8-yard walk-in score to put the Chiefs up 24-16. We just broke that down on our 3 plays to love. But did you know that Xavier Worthy is now just 2 touchdowns shy of tying Rashee Rice for the most receiving touchdowns in a player's rookie season? So again, we're talking receiving touchdowns. When it comes to total touchdowns, he's about 4 shy with 2 games to go. Not sure how that's going to play out, but if we can get him 2 more receiving touchdowns, he'll tie Rashee Rice 3 more receiving touchdowns, and he will have the most receiving touchdowns for a player in franchise history. Again, adding context and stats to what we're seeing from Xavier Worthy coming on strong at the end of the year. And it's not just that he's making plays at this point in the season, it's that he was making plays on the final drive to ice the game in a high leverage, high pressure situation. He's not doing it when the Chiefs are up or down by a whole lot. It's not early in the game and then disappearing late when they really need somebody to step up and make plays. They go to everybody else. Patrick Mahomes is delivering the football to anybody who is open. He trusts those guys. Xavier Worthy is earning that trust even more with the plays that he's making down the stretch. All right. And finally, the fourth thing that you ought to know, always going to talk a little PFF stats on here because Andy Reid had said best game he thought offensively, defensively, and special teams. He's one of the best coaches in NFL history. So we're going to side with Andy Reid if he says this is the best game. But just for context, PFF said this was the 3rd best game for the Chiefs this season, according to their grades, only trailing the 17 win over the Chargers and the win over the New Orleans Saints. Those games both had an overall higher grade for the Chiefs than this win over the Texans. Again, in this game, highest graded offensive player was Patrick Mahomes. The lowest graded offensive player was Mike Caliendo. Again, goes into my point of, was the performance against the Texans of the ceiling for the Chiefs offense? I don't think it was. I still think you can squeeze a little bit more out. Obviously, Hollywood Brown getting more comfortable. DeAndre Hopkins is only going to get more comfortable in this offense, but it's the offensive line. All the credit in the world goes to Joe Thuney for what he's doing to step in and play left tackle. But if you're asking me what's the best combination for the highest ceiling for the Chiefs offense, it's the combination of, if he's healthy, DJ Humphries at left tackle and Joe Thuney being one of the best guards in football back at his spot in left guard. Humphries and Thuney, to me, is better than Thuney and Mike Caliendo. So defensively, not a huge surprise. Highest graded player was Chris Jones. Had 8 pressures in this game, second most he had all season. He had 9 against the New Orleans Saints. He had 8 against the Houston Texans. Among defensive linemen or interior defensive linemen, Chris Jones has more pressures than anyone else in the NFL this season. Actually, kind of surprised. George Karlaftis, actually 10th in the NFL this season in quarterback pressures. So obviously Chris Jones, number 1, deserves all the credit. George Karlaftis quietly having another solid season opposite of him. And then finally, the lowest graded player for the Chiefs defense was Derek Nottie. So we appreciate you for watching this show. Hopefully you took something away from our big question, which was the ceiling for the Chiefs offense. I don't think it was. I still think you can get better along the offensive line. Top 2 takeaways being offensively, no turnovers. Defensively, taking the ball over twice, pretty solid. top three plays to love from this game. Hollywood Brown's first catch being a 4th and 2 conversion. I think he came back. His second catch was actually a 3rd down conversion. I think he picked up 20 yards on a 3rd and 7. So that was great to see. Patrick Mahomes scrambling and then getting away from the grasp of the guy that made some comments throughout the week. It's just, you couldn't write the script any better for him to beat Tim Settle in order to get that touchdown with what Tim Settle had to say. Great play, great memory from this game that I think everybody will remember a year from now. You'll still remember that play. And then finally, Xavier Worthy stepping up in crunch time on that final drive and getting 46 of the 80 yards for the Chiefs offense. Those are the 10 things in that kind of order that stood out to me. So we appreciate you for watching. If you like the content, stay here, look around. There's plenty of content here every day. Likes and subs are always appreciated. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this performance and how much meat you think is left on the bone for the Chiefs offense. How much better do you think they can get? Again, I appreciate it. Appreciate you bearing with me through the start of this show, trying to get through that stuff. But again, if you know somebody who's struggling, if you yourself are struggling, look up Fight Club, see if it's a resource that can help you or help somebody that you care about. That's what it's all about. Again, you never know what people are going through. You never know the battles that people are facing. So be kind to one another. Appreciate your support of us here at KC Sports Network. See you next time.